Hello, and welcome to Equine Voices. My name is Ronnie, and I am your host today. Firstly, I hope you've had a wonderful Christmas and that you've managed to spend time with your friends, family, and your animals and your horses. I'm excited. I'm going to go straight into the conversation. So Pat Cleveland has been on this podcast many times, and I love chatting with her. And today's conversation is, what's love got to do with it? And this was from a conversation that we had, an impromptu conversation while I was driving home, and we had this chat, and it was lovely. And I'm hoping the same essence comes through with the conversation tonight. If you have any questions for Pat, then please comment, and we'll get through to the questions as we go through the interview chat. So without further ado, I'll bring Pat in. She can introduce herself, and then we'll go straight into the conversation. Okay, here she is. Hi, Pat.
Hello. How are you? I guess you want me to talk about myself. Is this true? Okay. My name is Patricia Cleveland, and I originate out of Canada, Peterborough, Ontario, to be a fact. I moved to the United States and live in Dothan, Alabama. My background is in classical horse training. I was born what they call universal intuitive, wherever I focus my desires and my interest, it seems to unfold energy. And I started playing around with how do I apply this to horse training and to improve our understanding of the energetic qualities of the horse, not just his soul or spiritual side, but his bio levels, intuitive, telepathic interactions that are possible with animals on a global scale. And from there, I discovered that the horse's body is like memory foam, and it gets all squished up and twisted when it goes through the birth canal. And that creates the conformation of the horses we ride today. They're lopsided and twisted and grumpy and painful. And, I don't like having that kind of interaction with horses. So I took on the quest of using 21 very damaged horses with negative prognosis from vets, and decided to employ their genetic information and discover what in nature triggers this memory foam reaction of the body so that the horse itself can self-correct back to its organic posture of being in symmetry. And then I proceeded to document this for over 25 years, and it's advanced into identifying a step that in horse training that we have missed or skipped over, and that if we reintroduce this concept of allowing the horse to self-correct before work, then it reduces a lot of problems and provides us with naturally sustainable horses. So that's what I do. I'm recognized as an international intuitive, and I am on the medical intuitive side versus the conversational side of horses. So I help people and try to bring joy into people's lives.
Thank you, Pat. I know you've got quite a few clients in the UK and all over the world, which is amazing. And you've done lots of trips on your motorhome.
Yeah, honestly has been the best addition to our lives. My husband Frank, he drives me around. And it's so cute. We look like the old couple. And we get to go and visit different farms and actually stay there. Now, it might not mean anything to somebody who sees the world from a different perspective. But for me, as an energetic person, being grounded and to sense or feel resources of a location is really important, because I am part of a key that unlocks an energy system that helps this memory foam effect to happen for the horse. So it's awesome. We get to travel and stay with people, and then I don't have to stay in hotels. I don't like staying in hotels at all. And we get to bring our own water with us, because I feel water is a really dynamic element that influences both myself and my conductive ability to hold enough energy so that I can inspire people and horses to find themselves. So, and it's just awesome. We can park and just survive out in the middle of nowhere and watch sunsets go over mountain ranges, and it's really magical. I like that.
Wow, that'd be such a treat. And of course, in the States, it's very different to the UK. I think I'm trying to think what the longest journey is from one end of the country to the other, but yours is a lot more vast. So you have to travel thousands of miles to get to
Oh yeah,
places.
like our average what we call drive-bys for the Balanced Horse Project. The average is about 3,800 miles. I don't know what that would be in kilometers. Let's see, it'd be over, well, 30 is, hang on, 30 is 60. No, 60 is 30. I'd have to get a calculator. I'm sorry. I'm old school. I don't know how to convert it. But anyway, it's like if you drove from the top of Florida all the way up to Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and back. That would be about 3,800 miles.
Wow.
That's
So
what
how
we do.
long is that in a journey?
It depends on how many stops we have. Sometimes it takes us like 8 to 10 days. Other times we'll be on the road for almost 20 days. When we go out to Washington State, that's like 5,000 miles. So it takes us almost 10,000 miles to do that journey. We're gone for almost a month, and we will help ranchers, rodeo people, horse trainers with horses. And we get into these big ranches, just like you see on Yellowstone or a Heartland or any of those things. We get into these big ranches that have 44,000 acres of land, and we work with the ranch horses. So our average run out to the West Coast will cover about 138 horses. So we do set up training systems, training sessions to help people enter into a different awareness of looking at why the horse is saying no, and teach them how to look at their horse. And then I go ahead and I apply training exercises that have been developed for specific physical limitations that cause the horse to have some form of resistance that causes the horse to get hurt if we put pressure on them. And it can also be a very negative experience for the rider. And coming from an eventer background, getting pitched off a horse really doesn't do one any good as you get older. So I thought that adding the human care and to teach people that it's okay to love a horse. And it might make me cry to say this because it's a very powerful emotion, but to love a horse instead of treating it as just, the biblical term, it's just an animal that's here to serve us. Well, there's a lot more, I think, that's going on that has been mistranslated. And so when you learn to love a horse on the terms that a horse can understand, it creates just this, it's like opening up a treasure box, because you can both see and understand each other, And the horse isn't a dumb thing. And he doesn't want to eat your treats so that you know that he trusts and loves you, because he can only trust you at that level. He doesn't know how to tap in to what I call the vertical human energy stream, because horses operate in a dimension of horizontal energy. And this gets into a lot of science, which I'm sure nobody wants to hear, but it is documented that there is energy streaming from above. It's called the ether. Okay. And you can call that your ascended energy, where you would find your ascended masters. It's where the Akashic records can basically use the ether as a transportation system down into the vertical thread of the human. Excuse me. But how does that work for the horse? Because their system is horizontal. So they process this information. In my understanding, other people have different definitions, but on a horizontal plane, it's translated completely differently. It doesn't mean to say that the energy isn't there, the memory isn't stored, but it's translated in a different format. And so this is why I started to look into unified field theories, and it goes down a lot of rabbit holes. But there's got to be something going on, because when I applied my theories from physics to the horse, to that memory foam reaction, it works. And it's not like doing a therapy or doing a medical intervention. It's very hard to explain. People need to come and have an experience. It's like this pause in how you feel. It causes the horse to pause in how they feel. And it's almost like time stalls. And there's this rush of horizontal energy that projects out of the heart chakra of the horse. And that energy is the trapped energy that's been there since that horse was born. And if you can imagine, if you do acupuncture or, craniosacral, any of those types of therapies, imagine opening all the blocks that you perceive in the physical body, all the acupuncture meridians, if they all opened up at once, and there's this huge rush of energy, and it floods every cell of the body, and it changes the vibration rate. Okay. The vibration rate, so that the horse comes into resonance, so it comes into partnership with the true or the authentic energy of earth consciousness, Schumann frequency, Schumann resonance. And that's where this bridge between the human consciousness, the human expression of thought, can actually be translated and received by the horse. And the horse can be translated by the human. And this is the only way I know how to explain something that is a very old pre-existing system of interspecies communication, which I feel existed thousands, if not millions of years ago. Okay, because I'm one of those. I believe that there were ancient societies that were based on energy and vibration and frequencies versus the physicality that we focus on today. So I feel that there's a lot of truth in the Aboriginal stories, the First Nations stories, where we are actually communicating with nature, we're learning with nature, and we're surviving with nature. And then when we started having let's just pick on cell phones and microwave towers, but those are cramming and holding energy into our ionosphere, or below the ionosphere, and it's suppressing all the vibrations of all living things on this planet. But we have the ability to come past that if we move into our connection, not with what's up there, because what's up there is always beaming down here. Okay. And now I may I may confuse or contradict some people's theories about meditation or spirituality or religion, but all as I know is most people want to move up and honor something higher than themselves. And for some reason, after I was hit by lightning, okay, I'm not boring. But when I was hit by lightning, it changed all the resonant vibrations of the body. And I was pulled down into the earth. And this is where I find that there's a difference. That's where I discovered there's a difference between how we perceive love and how, I'm going to speak about horses, how a horse perceives love. And that is one of the key issues that is getting in the way of us understanding how to interact with other species. So this gets into horse training from an intuitive side and an energetic side. And it is true, and it is based in physics, okay? It's not me making something up. So there you go.
Thanks, Pat. That was really interesting. And we're going to talk about the resonance and the frequency and vibration of love. But I just want to let people know and explain that you don't take this traveling and your own truth and what you want to inform people of lightly, because it's not a case of you're going around to seeing a few clients and you're making a bit of money. You travel thousands of miles. You don't have to do this. And it's not easy. And you come across people that just want you to fix the horses sometimes, and then that's it. Now, obviously not your regular clients, because they know you by now. but they have approached you, and sometimes we're all in the same. We all do that sometimes, is we want somebody to come along and fix our horses, and then we can go on and do what we want to do. The frequency of love, and something that came through the conversation and through my own understanding through connecting with horses, is when they say they want us to love ourselves first. It sounds very cliche, and yeah, I get that. You want me to love myself. I love myself, that's fine. No, because that's not what you're doing.
No.
Loving yourself means accepting who you are on every aspect, and it's not bad, good, it's just every aspect of you, and recognizing and feel those emotions and allowing them to flow through you, and understanding when an emotion flows through you and it's let go, it is literally doing that. It is flowing through you. When we have a broken heart, when we lose something, we can close off. Now, loss is a natural process. Death is a natural process, but it's not the death as we know it. It's just, for me, it's like your clothes. Your clothes are worn out, they're tired, they no longer serve a purpose, or they've done what they've needed to do, and they dissolve. And then what's left is you, the essence. So how we respond and how we process that and how we understand that can make a huge difference. And our horses want us to know that, because it affects them big time. It affects them in so many ways that it's difficult to explain. And some things aren't explainable. It has a huge impact. Now, do you want to talk about the conversation, if you can remember it, or just go with the flow? Whatever comes through will come through.
I just think, how to put it? I think there's different levels of understanding what love is. And even from between one person to the next, that interpretation of emotion shifts. I don't think that we understand, like, I'll get people that'll say, well, where's your facts? Where's your science? Where's your citations? Okay. Well, there are facts and there are citations. The problem is that they're found in sciences that are like cosmology, etc. And those guys are trying to understand the concept of spirit and self and creation. What I have been led to as a horse trainer is that the horse is seeking the same thing as the human. And that is that we automatically are born with several instincts. The first instinct is we need to hold our bodies in vertical. Okay, for humans, we stand up straight. We need to create a vertical balance. The horse also has to create a vertical balance, but he's on all fours. And the straighter the body, symmetry, the better the balance. Now, there's another, that symmetry instinct leads you to the scientific term of homeostasis. But everything humans make, we build houses, they're symmetricals. We build a car, it's symmetrical. So we're designed to construct or interact with things that are in balance. So when you ride a horse, if you're a dressage rider, you're looking for that floating feeling of the horse being in self-carriage. That's a lovely moment in life. But it's like that goes away because it's like that balance is interrupted. There's resistance in the horse's body. There's resistance in the emotional connection between you and the horse, and the conversation stops because when you ride, at least when I ride, internally, I'm working through my internal energy systems, and I'm trying to maintain not a state of love, but a state of trust. Because if I can ground into the horse's solar plexus at the base of the breastbone, that opens the heart up to feel that I'm confident, I'm body confident. Now, a lot of the horses I have been riding have been body confident horses because I have worked with them. But the average horse on the street that people are working with are scared of their bodies. And we bring them into this pressure because we're putting them into a state and asking them to be straight and balanced. And what we're actually doing is we're destroying our trust with that horse. And the next thing that we need to understand is that I, as a person, have an emotional system that works on the input of energy, the input of knowledge, how you and I converse, how weak your energy field is. Are you reaching out to pull energy, love from me to support you? Well, we do the same thing with horses. And this is where you'll see horses that are dull-eyed, shut down, because there's so much resistance in their body that the energy that they perceive as a life force is depleting. So there's a fear element that is ingrained in the horse, but there's the same fear element that's ingrained in the human being, and that is the fear of pain. And that pain has a universal pattern, and it relates to how you have moved through your mother's birth canal how you were stuck, how much pressure from a contraction was imprinted to distort your original gift of body symmetry. Now, that's been going on, I would say, for at least 56 million generations. So there's a lot of pain on the planet. It's not just me, it's not just the horse, it's not just the dog, the cat. It's everything that encounters this distortion that takes them away from symmetry. So what I do as a horse trainer is I have to be in a state of not self-love, because that energy field is too high for most of the horses that I work with. And I do work with people that don't understand what I'm talking about, but they want to help their horse. And these people will have the ability to see a physical response in the horse. They don't have to understand it. I'm just grateful that they allow me to come and interact with their horse and make things a little easier. But for the people who are exploring what this new concept of interspecies understanding is, then it's important for me to smooth out the human fear. So I have owners and they will come and they have their own problems, and that's not what I'm there for. But I have to smooth their anxieties and their concerns so that they trust me. So that's the number one thing I need to introduce this concept to that horse and that human partnership. Now, if you call me 9 times out of 10, I already have a sense that you're trying to trust something you don't understand. But when I walk into the space of a horse, or I sit in my living room and do a remote viewing session and I touch the soul of a horse, not with love, but with trust, they automatically let me in. They understand the pictures that my emotional state of, I just want to help. Will you please let me help? Will you please trust me? And they step into it. And their ability to suppress years of trauma that they've encountered from people that they don't understand, and people who have just walked in their space and basically assaulted them. Like, think of yourself as a horse. Would you like somebody, I don't know, hobbling your legs together and slamming a piece of metal in your mouth and then saying, okay, you're going to have to submit to me? And they never even introduce themselves. That's a pretty rough approach to working with something that is smart enough to know how to carry you down a jumping grid, or something that's able to understand what you want and cut a cow. Okay, that's a pretty rough way of approaching a partnership. So I have to come back and ground into the state of trust. And then the horse lets me in. And I do physical exercises with horses, and they inspire the release of that memory foam reaction. And when that happens, the horse physically changes his conformation in a matter of minutes. And while that's going on, their personalities go from, okay, I'm afraid, there's chaos, I'm afraid, I'm getting this information from my nature around me, I feel differently when I get that information. Maybe I don't have to be so protective of the secret that I hide so that people and other horses. And so when that horse goes through this transformation from being crooked and having to protect himself from pain, and they understand that they can now trust you, it's just the neatest thing. It's like they stop their time, and I quite often see them go back to acting like foals. They want to suck on something or chew on something. And we literally take a lunge line and drape it over the horse's nose. And it reminds them of standing by their mother's tail. And they understand what love is. And at that point, this gateway, I don't know if you want to call it intellectual interaction, emotional bridging, I don't have words for it. But all of a sudden, the horse demonstrates that he understands English. That horse understands that he can lead you to a place, a thing that he needs you to be aware of. So now you have communication, two-way communication. And the horse, you ever go to one of my clinics? Oh my gosh. I do a prayer of compassion because the horse has to have a heart full of compassion for humanity in order to be present and allow us to participate, whether it's just on the ground as friends or to safeguard me as a rider to make sure that I come home off of an event, or my children go out and have fun. That horse has to have a lot of compassion when they're locked in a crooked, painful, out of balance body. And so when they run across people who are trying their best through medicine or through therapy, they're very, very grateful. And those gifts are brought with a very special type of love. But it's vertical love, and it doesn't ground and stay anchored in the horizontal being, because it's only going to hit one chakra point. Wherever you focus, wherever your symptom is, and that's where you do your healing art, that's one vertical strand of energy that's going to focus and try to create balance in that region of the horse. What I do and what I represent is horse training. And I have studied therapy. I'm certified in, I think, 12 or 13. I've studied over 21 therapies. And I walked away from them. I turned down a veterinary degree. I turned away from these things because they weren't holistic. They're looking at loving one part of a horse and trying to heal it. They aren't able to reference this point of symptom to this point of symptom to this point of symptom and connect the dots. And so we look at human love as vertical points of care, understanding, but it's not grounded. And so it can't stay anchored in the horse. But when we come into the concept of trust and thanking the horse for his compassion, then we come into the unity of love. There we go. The vertical and the horizontal stream of consciousness. Now, if you're training horses and you want answers, all of this may sound like, sugar plum fairies and magic dust. But what I will share with you is I come from a very hard-nosed school of horsemanship. And I took the best out of that horsemanship and I put it together with this unknown factor of intuitiveness, gut feeling, watching the behavior of horses. And today I have produced horses that have been on the US Olympic team. I have hundreds of horses that have reversed or contradicted the prognosis or diagnosis of the isolated love system. And I have helped competitors understand when the horse says, I can't do this, to stop and ask questions. Take a picture. Does your horse look symmetrical? And what can we do to remedy the problems that are stopping this love connection of the horizontal and the vertical, and separate it into trust and I don't trust, but I have compassion. So these are the psychological way the game gets played between the human and any vertical animal. It doesn't matter if it's a dog or a cat or a cow or, even giraffes. I've worked with giraffes, which is another whole story. But if you are aware that the animal has to trust you like you have to trust your partner before you can love, then that's the beginning of the type of horse training, the type of relationships I like to nurture and share with other people. So there's a mouthful there.
That was beautiful, Pat. That was beautiful. You have so much knowledge, and as you was talking about the word trust and love, the words that were coming through to me were, if you trusted yourself, you ask us to trust you. However, you do not trust yourself. You do not trust your own abilities. You do not trust what deep down that you know. And it's not always a knowing that you can explain to somebody, but there's something in you. The basic is like, that's good for you or that's not so good for you. You just have this feeling. I know I shouldn't be doing that, but I'm going to do it. If you do something, it flows. It gives you this feeling, this euphoria sometimes, or just this calmness. Sometimes it's just this stillness, and it's understanding what your own frequency is, what your own love is, what your own trust is. So as you was talking, I was thinking words can be strange because we communicate in word form, and love is a word that is a spread across the world. Love yourself, and religion, it's about loving your neighbor, loving everybody. But trust in yourself and believing in yourself would give you confidence, and also trust that you are worthy, you are divine, you are everything you are knowledge, you are flesh, you are spirit, you are energy. Trusting that. I'm trying to explain it, but even the words are not flowing because it's not always word form. And this is sometimes the difficulty of explaining. So I know you spoke about horses trust. So for a
Okay.
human, how can they incorporate that? Because at the end of the day, if we do not get this, and we will do, and we are, because it's changing, but if we do not get it as individuals, what we're after, what we're aiming for is just going to be surface. It's just going to be
Yeah.
surface stuff.
Okay.
So can you explain how to achieve that for us?
Okay. So, I'm, how should I put it? Part of some of my mentors have been from the First Nations people. And some of my family experience comes from the very first people that settled in North America. And for some reason, when I was about 21 years of age, I was living on a farm that was about 2 miles to the closest neighbor, and the house had no heat. I had to heat with wood. My water pipes would freeze. We had over 12 feet of snow. This would be in 1974. We'd have 12 feet of snow, and I couldn't keep my horses in the barn because the um, the oxygen flow through the barn wouldn't clear out the ammonia. And so I had to throw out 35 show horses. And they went down into the swamp and they tromped down the snow under these 200-year-old cedar trees. This happened in a place called Norwood, Ontario. And my horses wintered, literally wintered, out under the trees. Now, we didn't have round bales and we didn't have water heaters. So, the best thing I could do was to go back and study how people 100 and 200 years ago were able to sustain their livestock in the wintertime. And so I had to literally drop all of the knowledge that I had as a person who was raised in a privileged household, who really never had to work hard. And I had to get down and do the work. And that was a bit of a soul challenge for me. In our ancient traditions, people go on dream quests. You have rites and rituals of growing up. And if you go and read some of those trials, it's not fun. It's not easy. So that's going to scare a lot of people today because we like easy and we don't want to struggle. And we're afraid of failure because, there's always somebody around the corner that's going to point their finger and say, "See, I told you so." Okay. So I think the first process of learning to love yourself is to put yourself in an extremely uncomfortable position. Whether it's you go and you talk to people who are not in alignment with your perspectives of life, or you take on a challenge that may appear to be extremely impossible, and you are going to fail, but you take and you push yourself to the maximum of your physical and emotional abilities. So it would be like hitting the floor, hitting the ceiling. There goes Frank. is like just looking at life from the bottom of the bucket, not from, oh, I'm perfect and I love everything and everything's all flowery. Okay, you get to do that after you do the hard work. So if you're a person that's afraid of a challenge, set yourself a project. I mean, you have these people with the watches that count how many steps you do every day. Well, on your weekend, max it out. Take the average step count for the human, and instead of doing 1 or 2 miles, can you walk 12 miles in a day? Do that. Take a day, put everything aside, put on some good shoes, a pair of socks, take your snacks, your water, and a stick, and go for a walk. A long walk, not an easy walk, just walk. And you're going to find that inside of this little body here, there's a voice that goes, what the heck are you doing? You didn't bring your cell phone. You can't phone your friend to come and rescue you because now you're tired. But then the gut feeling, your spirit will show up and say, it's okay to be tired. You can stop. You can rest. And in a few minutes, your body goes, oh, well, it's not so bad. Let's keep going. And so you start to have these internal conversations between your higher self, your lower self, and your middle self. You're going, no, I don't have a higher self, a lower self, and a middle self. Well, who do you think loves you? And you have to challenge the higher self that says, everything's okay. Yeah, we can think this through. We can solve the problem. And the lower self that says, oh God, whatever got into her head? And the middle self, if you want to call that the self-esteem, where the self-esteem and the heart energy comes together, that's where you find your potential to love yourself. But you have to go through a challenge in order to find that. And once you have found that, the thinking part of your brain goes, oh, I can trust what's in my heart. And your gut feeling that goes, oh no, says, it's okay. She stopped thinking. We can trust what's in our heart. And that is where I found my love. And trust me, my job is not an easy job. And my encounters with people really require me to have a huge amount of self-love, because there are dynamics out there that would love for me to be destroyed or to sit down and be quiet. And that is not possible because I trust myself. And I know that my gut feeling is right. And I know that when I start to go into a flow state rather than think, the dynamics of potential open up. And instead of thinking and problem solving, it will present me with the resources, the opportunities, or the people to do the problem solving for me. And that allows all these elements to converge into the heart. So now when I work with a horse and he lets go of all the separations of his trauma, all his experiences with people, the fact that he's wearing shoes and standing on rubber mats and he can't ground to the earth, all of that rushes out. And where do you think it flows? It flows through the horse's heart. And that's when the horse realizes that, number one, he can trust himself, because obviously he's decided to trust me. or other people. Okay. And that joins us in this shared heart union. And my intuitiveness moves through my heart and it comes back through into my thoughts. And I am able, in an intuitive manner, to understand this sharing of space with a horse. To do that, know thyself. Do not back away when challenged, because it doesn't matter if you're perceiving yourself as right or wrong. That part doesn't matter. The part that matters is what you take away from that experience as a lesson, as a foundation to build on. And when you do, when you build on that moment and go, okay, so I screwed up. I insulted 150 million people today. But you know what will happen? All of that stuff will move away. And it's kind of like you go to somebody with one of those electric gates with the codes, and you just punched in the magic code, and the gates open up and you go through. And now you're ready for the next experience. And if you live your life like that, and you trust yourself, then you can step into this very unique, very special, and ever-present relationship with your dog, with your cat, with your horse. Because now, for some reason, when you speak to them, they might not know English. Because, I talk to horses that are in Holland, and I don't speak Dutch, but they understand the value of the emotional waves that are coming from heart to heart. And that opens up this dynamics of, now I'm not only talking to the horse at a heart-to-heart level, but that energy, that resonance, that common understanding between the two of us starts to activate them on a cellular level. And that's magical. That just opens up this conversation of horse training, at least for me. I'll focus on horse training, but it's like nothing. It just shows that there's so many misunderstood potentials out there, that if we went back in our ancestral history and looked at some of the struggles those people had, or the traditions of graduating from being a child into being an adult, if we push ourselves in that manner, then we become able to love ourselves. And at that point, our energy, our love, becomes grounded. And we're grounded to the earth. And because we're grounded to the earth, there's many ways that I can love a horse. I can love a horse heart to heart. And I can love the earth through the heart of the earth and use it like an amplifier and come up from the center of the earth and influence love into the lives of people and animals who are grounding, who are ready to receive it. So there's lots of ways that you can look at love, different perspectives of love, superficial love, ungrounded love, grounded love, multidimensional love. I can go on for hours and hours and hours. Here's a concept. Silly me. If you do the work and you challenge yourself And when you do that challenge, it breaks you down inside so that you know, oh, that part of me is bullshit. Okay, pardon my English. But brings you to being real. And you ground, you can do meditation to ground yourself to the heart of the earth. Then think about all the dimensions of frequencies or time that your emotions or the ions or the dust particles, the mineral, the light, whatever you choose to focus on. Think of all the dimensions that you have participated in and call them to ground through you as you ground through the earth. That is powerful. You can do that for your horse. You can open up their ability to meet you on the physical level as an intelligent partner. You can ask them to meet you on a feeling level of we're just together and we're good friends and we look after each other. You can meet them as an intuitive, regardless of their location on this planet. You can meet them as spiritual elements. You can meet them at any point in time or dimension of space. So, I can talk about love in many different ways. But the bottom line is you need to get past the self-doubt and the condemnation and the fear of not being seen. A lot of people have that fear because we work in office jobs and you're just a cog in the wheel of the machine, and very seldom do you get a pat on the back and say, yay, you did a great job today. No, your energy is constantly being given away, and you go out to the horse and you need to be acknowledged. Okay? And our pets do that for us. Our animals do that for us. But it's part of the fact that you have not grounded in love. You are a high, above, ascension love coming down, but it hits your trauma, it hits your pain, and it goes back out. It doesn't run all the way down to the ground because you don't know who you are yet. So find something that you can do that's not going to be easy. I like walking personally. I mean, the worst thing that's happened to me is I've got blisters on my feet. I can tell you I can walk 32 miles in a day. Tired. Yep. Achy joints. Yep. Tired muscles. But you know what? The sense of self-accomplishment supersedes all of the negatives because I just changed who I am. I'm not like everybody else. I don't live in fear. Yes, I'm a difficult personality because I do not have the ability to conform. And I'm glad, because if I listened to all the people in my life who loved me, I would have stopped my adventure with horses and stayed at home. Done what? Watch TV? Support an addiction? talk about people behind their backs, what would I become? So by challenging myself and defining who I am, what my limitations are, I know what my limitations are. I'm not afraid of them. I'm aware of them. And to take that and say, okay, I can take this far. And then I have to wait and not think about it, because my heart energy is going to latch on to somebody else's heart energy without asking. Or maybe what's above is going to download what's needed, or what's in the earth is going to supply a life force that's needed. I don't know. I just know that I have stood in my power as a person who has gone through and done the work. And anybody who's interested in discovering how to love yourself, this is a path that has been recorded throughout the history of humanity. So humans need to test themselves on a physical level so that they don't get killed. Like, don't go jumping off of a cliff without a parachute, but find something. Maybe it's doing hatha yoga with heat, or I don't know, deciding you're going to do the splits and you're 62. Find something that you can do that's going to contradict your normal, take you out of that familiar environment, so that the inner voice, the inner child, and the higher consciousness in your heart can actually have a conversation. And then it's magic. And if you think it's kind of crazy, I'll tell you this little story, and then I'll be quiet for a minute. My husband was going out to sea every 28 months, or every 28 days. So I would be home alone, which I like being alone, but I was home alone, and a very violent storm came along. And I was standing on the front porch videotaping the 18 trees that the 65-mile-an-hour wind flattened. And I was videotaping, right? And the wind changed direction, and the screen door came towards me. It's aluminum screen door. And I put my hand out, and I put my thumb, this part of my hand, on the door to block it. And half of it was on the glass, the other part was on the aluminum frame. And the next thing you know, there's a flash of light that arcs off the ground in front of me and jumps and hits the grounding post of the house, which is right by the corner of the porch I was standing on. And part of that lightning arced onto the door and went through me. So I was indirectly hit by lightning that time. So, you kind of blow it off. You're all by yourself. You start talking to yourself. Well, no, my fingers work. Yeah, that was kind of like hanging on to the worst electric fencer I've ever experienced. And then I thought, well, I better go up to the barn and clean up the mess. So I go up to the barn and get my big broom out, and I'm pushing sludgy water so it will drain. And then next thing you know, I find myself sitting on a stool. I go, well, that's odd. I was just sweeping the floor. So I get up and I sweep the floor again. Next thing you know, I'm sitting on the stool. Wait a minute. What happened? I was sweeping, I'm on the stool. So the third time I thought, okay, I'm going to pay attention, because obviously this is a consciousness game and you're not conscious. So I pushed the broom and I anchored and I grounded. I would push the broom again And on the third push, there was a voice inside that told my brain, you are hurt. You need to sit down and not do anything. And not my brain, my body moved back and sat down. So, who was that? Was that my lower self trying to protect my body and tell the brain to stop forcing this conscious observation of self? And was it the heart that was saying, we love you? Please listen to your inner voice. These are some of the experiences that, they don't sound normal, but for me, it is normal. And I took it seriously. And I didn't do very much for a couple of weeks because my brain and body had to heal so that my spirit, my higher self, could actually fit back in because I was hurt. But it's the type of scar that you'll never see. Okay. And there's lots of people out there that are like me. Okay. And if you've fallen off a horse and you've had a concussion, odds are that you're very open to doing this type of work because the gaps in your brain will allow you to process information on a completely different level. These are the things that I have found to be true. So maybe that's why horse people are a little more creative in their thinking, or perhaps a little emotionally aware, because our brains may actually be functioning on a more authentic level rather than being inundated with the facts and the have-tos and the judgment. So I'll just kind of let you digest all that, because this is the reality of what allows me to bring horses back into knowing themselves. And I just wish I could get that into the reality of more people. So there you go.
Thank you for that wonderful explanation, Pat. I could listen to you for hours. So it's about being conscious, because a lot of the time we do things routinely, we do things habitually, and we're not always conscious. And I'm sure many people have had the experience where you're busy rushing around, you're going out, you're looking for your car keys or the house keys, and you can't find them, and you've literally had them a few seconds ago, and you're rushing around, you're thinking about 101 things that you should be doing, and then you think, okay, I can't find something if it's lost, so it's not, so don't think about it. As soon as you do that, you find your keys. I mean, I did that last night. When I came home from work, I took the rubbish bin out, you call it garbage bin, and I had a bag in my hand, I had my car keys and my rucksack, and then I threw the bag over my shoulder, went to put it in the bin, and then I thought, which hands were my keys in? And I could not find my keys. Now, I could have got really mad and started flapping. I thought, right, just slow this down, think rationally. So I emptied all the rubbish out. So it was clean rubbish because it was recyclable rubbish. And I went through and I emptied everything. And then when I got to the bottom and split the bag, the keys were in there. And I just laugh at myself because I know it's because I'm not conscious. I'm not present. I'm not present at that time. I'm everywhere else. So energy is flying everywhere. It's not here. It's not being grounded. And
So
when
we're
you
like,
do things like go for a walk, And if you haven't got your phone with you and you're just going for a walk in nature and you're watching the sky and you're listening to the wind or the rain, it brings you back to the basics, and you start to not to have so many thoughts going through your mind, and you're more present. So being more present is a big part for me of being in that moment.
Okay, so we're light beings, okay, or we're made of light, or we are crystals that reflect light, however you translate this. Light, photons, okay, particles of light that make up matter, that make up our body, travel at over 3,000 miles per second. That's really fast. And there's a flicker rate that they have found in physics, that the physical image of the human, or what the human sees as physical, has a flicker rate of over 40 flashes per second. 40, don't quote me. It could be 40 flashes or 40,000 flashes per second. So that means that the physical things that we perceive are not solid or not a constant. And I often think that there's this thing called Murphy's Law, right? And you make a plan and you're all organized and, things are going well. And then all of a sudden it goes sideways. And I really think that there's something either in our presence or something around us that goes, oh, okay, let's do a stress test. How mature, how emotionally and energetically mature is this individual? Because if we mess up the plan, are they going to start thinking about problem solving? That's my dog. I'm sorry. Hey, Piper. Come here. Thank you for, don't squeak your toy right now, okay? Thank you. So if you're flickering or your reality is flashing faster than your brain can perceive, and it's asking you, it's like all these little portholes, it's like little pearls on a string. And say if you make this, you touch this pearl, you go down this pattern of behavior, or you think this over here, you go a different pattern of behavior, or it offers you potentials. And what I have learned is that if you don't apply emotion, when Murphy's Law kicks in, then you're able to stabilize. This gets into really weird stuff, but it gets into stabilizing the time, the space and time that you're experiencing. But say I decide to get all worried about it because I don't know what's going to happen. Well, then I'm going to go over here and have this experience. Now, eventually, this experience will bring me back, but I will be perceiving or understanding my life differently than if I had not applied the emotion. So that's what you call a flow state. So if you don't engage and throw your energy into the thing, but you stay neutral, centered, still point, 0 point, symmetry, perfection, if you stay in that flow state, everything will just go around you. And you can walk through situations that when you look back at time and you go, oh shit, I could have died, things like that. But because you're in this stable field, there's no chaos. Chaos is resistance. Chaos takes you to resistance. Resistance is going to create a state of pain, heat. Pain goes to being too acidic, goes into damage, goes into decline. And it's all based on whether you're allowing your emotional energy to fit into this twisted form, or you're working on creating a solution to your twisted form, which allows this energy field to become comfortable and resonate inside you as a still point. This gets kind of weird, but in shamanic teachings, we learned that when you live in your heart, when the shaman lives in his heart, he has no fear. He's in his heart, this vessel that radiates all this interdimensional love. And if he lives with no fear, he controls the direction of the tornado. Tornado. Oh, chaos. But inside the tornado is the still point. So when I meet horses that are in chaos, and I don't emotionally, I gotta control this horse, he's a bad son of a gun, watch, he might bite you, well, you can't touch him there, he'll kick you. Okay? If I don't engage that, and I don't think, and I just go to neutral, then there's this bridge that opens up between the horse and myself. And that's where that comment about trust starts. Piper, give me a toy.
He wants to play with his toy.
Oh, my dog. I wish I could get her up by the camera. My dog is very intuitive and very personal, and she gets frustrated when I'm talking and doing these interviews because she's like, oh, I want to participate too. There's all those people out there and I need to be seen. So she actually is very, very interesting to watch when I do training sessions with people's horses, because the dog reads the horse, and she will move in and help the horse when the horse finds a place of fear that really destabilizes his confidence. The dog will move in and go, excuse me, pay attention, don't hurt my mom. And then that little break in that energy flow will allow a still point big enough for my trust energy to move in. It's very interesting to watch the dynamics between the dog and the horses. And then you bring in, so I work with my husband, which I find she's now throwing the toy and running around the room. Okay. So I bring my husband in, Frank, and he is very energetically aware. And because we're opposite energy, male, female, positive and negative, we can move energy at a higher rate, a denser rate, to stabilize an environment. So I will usually focus on nurturing the horse and bringing them back through their birth experience, while he's actually deflecting the fear of the owner and keeping them engaged so that they find it's okay to relax and allow things to go forward. So we work, you'll see, I'm great with horses and he's great with people. And it balances. And I really enjoy that because it's hard for me. I can balance both the horse and the human, but I'm finding the depth of the work and the amount of energy, how deep these exercises influence a horse. It really takes a lot out of me to stay in that still point so that energy moves. And then I like talking like this, but when you're working with somebody who is facing, that's the other thing, oh my gosh, when you start working with these horses, a lot of the horses mirror the traumas that are in the people. And so when you move the energy through the horse and it comes through the heart chakra, and you've got the horse who is in a state of trust, and you have an owner that's in a state of trust, and everybody's in a state of trust, then that energy spreads and is attracted like to like. And so next thing you know, you're getting a part of a healing. The owner, I've had owners, I've had owners faint. I've had owners go into rapid babbling conversation that's totally senseless because they feel this energy go through them, but they can't rationalize it because they're physical thinkers. So it puts them into a state of fear. And if you watch animals, they don't make a noise, right? But the more people talk, the louder people talk, the more fearful reality is for that person. So these, so I'm trying to ground the horse, hold the still point, and this person's over here. I'm in a state of self-denial. I'm in a state of self-denial. I can't accept what I'm seeing. It's, oh my God, but I'm glad my horse is good because I can ride it tomorrow. Okay, and then Frank is there. Excuse me. Well, he engages the people. He just instinctively knows when they need somebody to ground to, and he helps people so they don't go into that state of self-denial. So there you go. Self-love, self-denial. Choices.
Bingo. And that is the sweet not right there is when you mentioned that the human part, that the horse, as they're releasing, as I let them go, the human feels that too, because that is what for me, this conversation is about. When we understand how our thoughts, our emotions, how they affect us, and they're not something to be buried or pushed aside or to be ashamed of. We all have experiences. There is nobody on this planet that has not had an experience that might say, I wish I never did that. Or why did I do that? I love doing that. We've all had it. And the shame we feel about something is our own shame. It's our own degree. We put the degree on it. We put the pressure on that. To somebody else, it doesn't mean as much. It's how we view ourselves. I'm not even sure if I'm explaining this, but it has a huge impact on not only people around us, but our animals. And for me, this is ongoing understanding and learning how, if we were more centered, more balanced. And when I say that, I'm not talking about you have to sit there with your hands crossed, your legs crossed, going for the rest of your life. That's not what this life's about. It's about fluctuations, but it's about how to deal with them and stay in the storm, the eye of the needle, observing it, seeing it, rather than just reacting to it. You can react, but it's how long do you stay there? Can you bring yourself back? Can you observe what this is saying to you, how you're feeling about it? And when you see yourself and watch yourself going through those moments, it's like watching somebody else, and you can start to see a pattern. You can start to see what that does to your physical, to your mental. Your energy has an impact on your physical disease, illness, and it also has an impact on the animals that we care for and the people we care for. And that's why it's really important to understand, as you said, about trust, love. It has to start with yourself, trusting yourself, accepting yourself, loving yourself, for all that you are and being okay with that. We're all here for a purpose. You are where you are, Pat, because that is your work, that is your destiny. And as I mentioned earlier, it's not an easy project that you do. And it certainly isn't for the money. So why would you do it? Why would you do it? Why would anybody do anything if you just wanted to be liked externally? I want to be loved externally. I want gratification externally. You want this inside. And yes, you want to be accepted. And we all want to be seen and appreciated. But if you're not getting those rewards and it's not what you wanted, you'd do something else. To stick at something because your heart tells you this is how it is. It's a passion, it's a drive.
There's a pattern. There's a lot going, I mean, okay, there's a lot going on beyond just this conversation. This conversation is just like a freckle on a frog from my observations. So what if we're moving through, here we go. What if we're moving through a dimension of space? Okay, Star Trek, okay, got the plasma drive and we're chewing through space. So what if the location of the Earth, our solar system, has an influence on the function of the human brain? Because we know that the human brain, human behavior is definitely influenced by solar radiation, EMF fields, etc., and that they can drive the human emotions, they can drive your hormone systems, they can drive health, heart palpitations, the whole 9 yards. So what if the energetic environment that our physical world is moving through is actually influencing how we interpret ourselves in our reality? So a lot of people follow a gentleman by the name of Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he has done studies where people with different limitations, physical states of disease, etc., will sit and go into meditative states where they merge the theta waves. I'm not sure if it's theta waves or alpha waves, but anyway, they bring all the brain waves into one point, one still point. And at that point, they can map the brainwave pattern so that there's a spike. And when that spike happens, there's this opening of all the portals, all the gates, all the cells start to take in this energy. And this energy brings them into still point or brings them into symmetry. Okay. And that's real. That's measurable. Anybody can look it up. Dr. Joe Dispenza. Find him on YouTube. He's a doctor of chiropractics, has gone into an area that parallels mine. Mine is a little different. Mine is, I'm going to see if I can rebirth the body so that the energy waves that are already present in the universe or in the environment can download through the system and kickstart the genetic pattern so that it doesn't rebound, so that it's long lasting and permanent. So Joe Dispenza's work is from the high up and down. And what happens in my observations, unless he's found a different way of modifying his approach, but what I'm finding is that people are spending these times meditating, pulling in energy, but then it rebounds out and you have to keep pulling this energy in, which is, in my understanding, saying that the container doesn't resonate with the energy that you're inviting in. In other words, the vibration of your physical form is not vibrating at the same speed as your conscious higher self energy is. And so it can't stay there, and therefore it can't fix anything on a long-term basis. Now, what I'm going to say is a pretty big statement. But when I go back and rebirth a horse and release the memory foam, the cell structure, or activate or provide a situation where enough energy is flooding the cell so that the genetic code can wake up and say, oh yeah, we got this problem. We need to release the stem cells from the bone. So go over there and fix the problem. And it's because remember, light is flashing through your physical form at, let's just say 40,000 flashes per second. That's how fast what we're watching is the speed of light modifying the body symmetry of a horse and changing their way of applying their energy and their emotional interactions or resonance with the people and the ground and the water around them. So this is a huge conversation that's alien to the horse industry. And it's improving because more people are starting to discover this. But I don't know how to present it when Piper, I love you.
Bless him.
But,
Oh.
you know, how do you bring the process into horse training that basically says, well, the horse is self-correcting. Why don't we help them create a balanced body before we stress them out so that they're self-sustainable in a natural environment and that our cost of overhead for the horse goes down and our longevity in relationship with that animal is sustainable. It's just a different way of looking at science. But the science is out there outside of the horse world, outside of the pet industry. It says that the body is, if you love it, if it can trust you, if that animal can trust you enough to go through their personal quest, like you going for a long walk, this is their personal challenge. When they can face themselves and accept that they can trust that fear, because it's like opening up those electronic gates so that you walk through into a new reality. That's just something I think should be like an everyday experience and very normal. And at one point, I think in our history it was. And maybe it's time that some people just kind of look at themselves and say, do I trust myself?
It is changing.
Myself, how much do I love myself? It's coming.
Yeah. I mean, like people like yourself, and I've had a few conversations with some well-known people, and it's like, wow, they think that way too. They think, okay, and it's really lovely and inspirational, and it doesn't change overnight. And I'm sure there's people listening to this conversation. I'm listening to you and I can accept everything you say. And some things that you've said, I've heard through my own awareness of my own learning. So it's not all to do with horses, it's my own growth. And as you was talking about the parallels, so if something happens and you stay in that center, that calm area, and observe, then the outcome is slightly different to if you went, oh, holy shit, the outcome would be different. And that's very apparent through lots of things that happen on a day-to-day basis. And the more you observe it, the more you appreciate when you're not in it and when you're in it, because of how things change. So you are definitely on the right road. You're on the right track, and people will take from our conversation whatever they feel they need already. If they're not, it's not a reflection on them. It's just that at that moment that they're not in the same space.
And I don't expect, I know my conversation as far as it goes to horse training and interaction, it's a leap for people. But the encouraging thing is that the people that make the leap are able to hold their place, hold the experience. And horses don't go backwards. It's creating a different awareness, not just of the horse, but how these people are moving through life, because now they have this place of inner stillness. And excuse me. I have this place of inner stillness, and they can walk into somebody else's chaos, and they can ground the situation. They can be the anchor point. They can be the stillness in the storm that helps other people. And that's huge. That's huge, because there's so much fear in society today. There's so much stuff that people are afraid to openly address or speak towards. And, everything has to be based in fact. And what Pat Cleveland says, well, this, that, and the other thing. Well, this, that, and the other thing produces results that nobody else can. And so you find that in yourself. For me, it's the fact that I have this awareness that I'm trying to translate for people. And I was gifted with the ability to document and measure and demonstrate a consistent ability to produce these results. And then the universe provided the opportunity to speak with people like yourself, or to go and just people find me on Facebook, and the next thing you know, I'm invited to somebody's farm, and that experience may not go past the farm gates, but those people will have the better horses in the show ring. Those people are the ones that are winning the earnings on the racetrack. Those are the people that may live on a farm and they don't ever have to go beyond their own skill sets to support their animals. And today, with the increasing costs of animals and farming, that's a big deal for people. Or you buy a pony for your child at Christmas, and you find out it's been drugged. And you put your kid on the pony, and the pony proceeds to rain terror on your child. And it's the transference of fear, because the pony has lived in fear. Pony's lived in fear all its life. Fear is humans, because we don't understand where the pain is, and we trigger the pain, so the pony goes, these friendly giants aren't so friendly. So what if you had the pony come and you took pictures of his conformation and you realized the pony is not symmetrical, and you had an opportunity to change how the pony trusts people? And in doing that shift in that pony's life, you provide that pony with the ability to love humans. That's where magic is. Because out there are little girls and boys whose inner child wants to have a relationship with an animal. And if it's a horse, they could get hurt. And drugging a horse is not the answer. But bringing them to a place where they can love and therefore care for their rider, that's profoundly important, because we're losing our connection to nature. And if we lose that connection, do we lose connection with ourselves? So this is a very dynamic conversation that can go down a lot of rabbit holes. But it's just something that this is a conversation that may not fit everybody's understanding. And I don't really care if you perceive me as a nut or somebody who just you can't relate to. It's okay. I'm okay with that. I've lived with that all of my life because I was born with an automatic connection to things that other people did not understand. And so it's okay. There's more than one perspective on horse training, more than one perspective in what we are, who we are, how things work, what life is or isn't. And I think it's special that there's a diversity of human perspectives because it allows us to challenge each other. And like that's where creativity comes from. And if you can do it not from a position of I hate you, but from a position of I don't understand you, I can't see where you're coming from. And the other person goes, oh, well, I'm way over here and I'm trying to share this with you. But we don't resonate. But maybe I can find a little bit about you so that I can learn from you how to find a way to connect, because that's the problem. We're artificially connecting through cell phones, etc., but our interpersonal skills have turned into fear. And then we don't trust each other.
Technology has its place though, because we're having this conversation and we've had lots of impromptu conversations on the phone, and that to me is lovely because I usually pull over in my car, I'm still and I'm listening, and as you speak I listen to the feel my body is saying to me and my intuition is saying to me, and that's when that beautiful exchange, so that you say the words but I know when you're in that flow because it's just how it comes through. So Pat, I think we're going to call it a night now, and so I'm just going to see, I don't think there's any questions. There's people watching, so hopefully they are I think we've been about an hour 40. Is there anything you'd like to parting words, a little short parting words that you'd like to say to anybody that's listening?
4 hours later. I think wherever you are in your awareness, whether it's just you just want to get on your horse and go for a jolly ride, or you're looking for answers because you're seeing things around you that aren't making sense, wherever you're coming from, it's okay. Number one. Number two, you are the hardest judge of yourself. And you need to stop and validate yourself and accept the fact that you're not perfect. But in that state of perfection is the opportunity to learn how to become better. And this concept of fear and self-doubt is manufactured from pain. So a lot of the emotional triggers that you have that make who you are, that come towards the horse, you may not understand it. You may come from the house or from work and be stressed out, and you go to the barn, and by the time you're finished at the barn, you feel good. But did you leave your energetic trash in the barn? And is that really love? And how is the horse supposed to trust people who are just giving it empty emotion? So don't question what's in your heart. Listen to your inner voice. And when you start to think and you have all these, I got to do this and I got to do that, okay, that's where you need to start saying no, because that is somebody else's agenda. That's brainwashed pattern. That is ritualized patterning. That is what's stopping you from growing, because that is external stress, external people in your life saying it's got to be this way or you're not right, and your inner child is afraid of being wrong. And that is a sign that you need to go for a walk and let your body talk to your soul. And then come back to your horses or your pets and watch how much they change. That's what love is about.
Sorry, that was beautiful. That was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Pat, for coming on. I love having you, and I love listening to you, because it's mainly listening, but it's because you have important information that you wish to share, and it's not an easy path that you've chosen.
It's fun.
But you're still here and you're still doing it, and the message is getting out, and you are seeing more people and they are seeing the results, which is the proof in the pudding. So would you like to say bye, and we will have another conversation another time. I think we might do a webinar next year, so people can come on and they can actually come on. We'll do it like a webinar for people that are interested. We'll do a private session, and they can ask you questions, because sometimes I think they want to ask questions, but they're not sure. It's yeah.
And like that would be fun, and I think it would be very helpful, because there are times when people want to ask questions, and because it's in an open forum, that it's very maybe limiting. Because sometimes people have a lot of fear because they don't want to look like me talking like a nutcase in public, okay? Because they're not ready for that. Me, I don't care. I'm just having a damn good life. If you want to join me, come on. So if you are interested in doing something like that, I would love to support that, because it's about discovering from each other and growing out of that discovery. And I'd love to do that.
Okay, we'll sort that for next year then, which is only not far away, but definitely. Right, would you like to say bye, and then just hang on, because I'll say bye in person before you go. But if you'd like to say bye to the viewers, to the listeners.
Okay. Well, everybody, I want you to know it was an absolute joy and a pleasure. And I hope when I leave this conversation, I have left you with a smile. Bye.
See you in a bit. Oh, what an amazing woman. I love listening to Pat. I wanted to mention, but she was talking, I didn't want to interrupt. So as she was talking and connecting with the horses, there was this beautiful black horse behind her. So I'm going to ask her about this later. But for me, the horse was behind her, strong on his back legs, and I could see the grids, the frequency. I could see the pathways. You could say neurological pathways, what we have in our brain. But this is what the horse was showing me. And the horse was very much behind Pat as she was speaking. And he was strong. And I'm sharing this with you because I didn't get the opportunity to share that with Pat. So I shall talk to her a bit more about that when I finish here. But for me, the horse was saying we are very much, because this was a collective as well. It was just one horse visual, but it was a collective, saying we are very much behind and with this person, with this human, and we are working with this human to bring knowledge, enlightenment, to mankind for themselves as well as for ourselves, because without them changing, the possibilities are not as deep. So on that note, that was quite a heavy moment there, but I wish you all the best. And if you'd like to join us for a private webinar, we'll do it as a group in a community. And as Pat says, you can be open to asking questions. Just let me know or let Pat know, and we'll sort something out in the new year. I wish you all the best for next year, and that you get time to spend with yourself to get to know who you are, as well as the animals that you share your life with. They have so much more to share with you, to show you, and to help you and guide you. Just open your heart, accept, trust, as Pat said, and just let the process happen without any preconceptions of what that might be. Lots of love. Thank you for joining us, and I will see you in the year 2024. Take care and bye for now.